Sunday. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to yet another episode of True Story Live. Tonight's episode, The Art of Detachment, License to Kill. We'll get into that in just a minute. All right. So it is August 14th. Happy to be here. And also, first, we'll introduce the rest of the panel for those of you that do not know. If you're new to the show, my name is Jason Cripps, and I'm the main host of the broadcast, but I am joined by a lovely group of panelists, and starting first with my wonderful wife, Jennifer. Jennifer, say hello to the people.
Hello, peoples. Nice to be here. Happy Sunday.
It is a happy Sunday. We've had a good weekend.
Yes.
Yes. All right. Also with us tonight, our friend from Ohio, the great state of Ohio that you have to drive through in order to get to Michigan, Marisa. Marisa, say hello to the peoples, please.
Hello to the people. Welcome to True Story Live. Hi, Jason. Hi, Jen. Hi, Glenn. I'm looking forward to getting into this discussion. Please share it out on your social media. And thanks to everyone watching and watching the replay.
I love it. Thank you. Thank you. And before we move on to the writer of the hour, we'll talk to him in just a minute. Marisa how many broadcasts did you do this past weekend, Marisa, on your channel? 2? Or just 1?
Wait, what?
I was asking her how many broadcasts she did this week, because sometimes she does 2.
I did just 1 on Friday. Floyd couldn't do Friday night bingo, so I couldn't go to his thing because he had to work. So he joined me on Friday, and then I went live on Saturday, and Jen joined me, and so did Floyd Bingo. If anybody wants to see the 3-way art stream, we had an artistic 3-way. Woo!
We did.
Come see my Saturday night broadcast in my list of videos, and you'll see Jen.
There you go. See, don't ever say that I'm not learning how to promote. Especially other people's channels, because she does that for our new channel, and I appreciate it so much. All right, that out of the way, go over and visit her channel, Nez Lover, and I'm sure at some point she'll be able to post that in the chat for you guys.
I'm doing it now.
Jen's handling it, so there you go. All right, so Glenn is the writer of the write-up for tonight, which we greatly appreciate, The Art of Detachment, License to Kill. Glenn from Australia, our friend. If you'd take a minute to say hello to the peoples.
Ooh, maybe not. He's so quiet.
Glenn says, no, I'm not going to say hello to the peoples.
No.
All right. Well, we don't know
He's
what's
still
happening.
not there. Okay.
we don't know what's happening with Glenn, but maybe he'll say hello in a minute. Maybe he got a phone call at the last minute.
And he might have got a phone call.
At least he had the ringer off, which was good. Very happy about that. Okay. Well, we'll hope everything's all right over there. All right. Jen, would you like to say hello to everyone in the chat? I know that more people will come in, and we'll say hello to those folks as they enter.
Sure. Well, first that popped in was our lovely Nez, and then Bobby, one of her Nez Lover peeps. Hey, Bobby. And we got Glenn in the house, even though he's not talking to us, and Kellyanne Dean.
Yeah.
Hey, guys. It's great to see you, Kellyanne.
Sorry, guys.
Finally,
my mouse jammed. It just wouldn't move, and I had all this stuff to say, like, "Oh, the nude Crips" and all that really good stuff. My mouse jammed. The universe said, "Don't do it," but I did.
He's probably on the toilet. His mouse jammed. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I can see the toilets next door. No, the mouse actually did jam on one of my screens. I couldn't move it. I'm trying to pull the batteries out and thinking,
well, we're glad.
It suddenly decided to work. It's obviously a female mouse. It just doesn't do what you want when you tell it to.
Wow.
Ouch.
We can tell this is going to be a podcast already.
Yeah, it's going to be one for the books.
There we go. All right, now that we've got our hellos said, and we've said hello to everyone in the chat, and as I said, we will make sure and welcome anyone that comes in. And if you are a frequent visitor of the chat and you see someone new, please make them feel welcome. We appreciate that. I'm sure they will as well. All right, we're going to dive right into it. The Art of Detachment, License to Kill. Now, before I get started, because I don't want to interrupt the reading of the write-up, I just want to say that Glenn chose a song from one of the 007 movies, License to Kill. And I just wanted to mention, when I went to listen to it, I hadn't heard it in a long time, and it is one of my favorites. I just thought how well they do with these themes for the movies. I don't know whether you like the movie or not. I like them. There's a certain flair to them, even with all the different actors and stuff, but the music is fantastic. So please do yourself a favor and listen to that. And in the write-up, he says he couldn't find the song by itself, so it's already kind of fast-forwarded right before the song starts at 18:30. So please keep that in mind. I won't read that in the write-up, but just keep that in mind. Okay. All right, here we go. Oh, and now my mouse is stuck. I can't scroll back up. Just a moment. I'm having trouble. I present the write-ups in Word, and then sometimes Word has been freezing up on me lately. So there you go. All right, here we go. It starts with a quote. No one can manipulate anyone else. In a relationship, both parties know what they are doing, even if one complains later on that they were used. Paulo Coelho. Interesting quote. My observations tell me that some people have no idea why or what they're doing in a certain relationship, let alone recognize that they are being manipulated. What do you think? Are we always aware if we are manipulating or being manipulated? Part 2. Thanks to Annie for her input. Tonight's show is based upon the metaphorical premise that we issue a free license to kill to each person we enter a relationship with. Whilst it might not be 007 with his Beretta 418, Walther PPK, or Glock 17, etc., some people can just be as dangerous to us if we let them, can be just as dangerous to us if we let them. The question is, can some people be just as threatening when their license to kill is revoked? Great song, wonderful voice. I cannot find the single, so please listen from 1830. Lyric is in the description. The lyrics say, hey, baby, thought you were the one who tried to run away. Oh, baby, wasn't I the one who made you want to stay? Please don't bet that you'll ever escape me. Once I get my sights on you, I got a license to kill. And you know I'm going straight for your heart. Manipulation for tonight is that enacted by a person who empowers themselves by being destructive by nature and offers their, quote, gift, unquote, of emotional debilitation to those involved with them. These people feel comfortable when going straight for your heart. After all, the heart is a vulnerable place and readily exploited. What's worse is that in these cases, the license to kill is not utilized by a single shot to the heart. It is a death by 1,000 inside cuts. You effectively bleed to a long and painful death. That is, unless the decision is made to try to do something about the situation. A trade was made to get into such a relationship. Now there is a stay/go scenario again. Fundamentally, is not go just a perceived flight to freedom? I believe most of us have done go, or at least contemplated the same. Hence, on a personal level, what reasons did you seek your freedom? For example, did you trade out your expectations and desires of the heart? Maybe the trade was simply a poor one to begin with, and you wanted out. Was it that you felt the other person was unsafe? Maybe they had nothing more to offer you. There is a myriad of other reasons. Our primary focus tonight is the trade we might make with ourselves after we've enacted the go strategy. So what is detachment? What is the art required to prevent inner responses from triggering ongoing meltdowns and feelings of helplessness? For tonight, let's say detachment is simply emotional distancing ourselves from another person. That is, to put ourselves into a place of not reacting, no matter what they or anyone else like them says or does. Wow. So, why do you think many people find it so difficult to not find themselves on an emotional roller coaster every time they are reminded of past situations? To put it another way, why might past situations tend to have a dominating effect upon how we tend to respond in the present? This art of detachment relates to what we tend to not do rather than what we do. Are you still invested in a past relationship, feeling the need to continually bring it up in conversation? Are you still holding thoughts of recrimination and or have a need to be validated that you are a victim of what another person did to you? And that's in quotes, did to you. Because of our past experience, do you feel the need to put up boundaries with people in order to be in relationships with them? Is not all of this about need? If you still need something, how can you be free from it? Now for the punchline. I bet nobody saw this coming. I didn't until I wrote it. As always, I feel free to disagree. Feel free to disagree. I suggest that detachment is really an illusion we use to try to convince ourselves that we have some control over a situation. As I see it, quote, the art of detachment, unquote, is irrelevant because we don't need to use our energy to detach from anyone. The art is really the art of attachment to ourselves. Think of it. Take all the boundaries and walls down, invite the world to throw at you what it will. Is this not freedom? Was William Wallace concerned about what the English were doing? Nope. His focus was on being a brave heart. Sounds simple. I know it is not. Worth a try? Up to you. Next week, Jen's going to continue the theme from her personal perspective. Get working, Jen. Wow. Got a little choked up there at the end. That's wonderful. All right. Got a lot of questions to dig into there. I'm going to check the chat real quick and see if anyone new came in. Not yet. All right. That's just fine. Some people come in late. That's good. Last week we pretty much stayed in the double digits almost the whole time. We had a lot of people visiting, but if you're here, we appreciate you and we're glad that you're taking the time to show up for us. And those listening to the playback, we appreciate you too. Don't take me the wrong way. If you haven't been in the chat, we just like to invite you to come in and have conversations. The conversations usually are pretty good in there. And we like to hear your thoughts. So if you're hearing this and you want to comment on anything, just please put it all in caps for me. Or if you do the @ symbol and type in True Story Live or any of the names on the panel, it will highlight them so that we can see them. Okay? All right. So scrolling down to the first question. So right after Paulo's quote, Glenn says, interesting quote. I'll read the quote again. No one can manipulate anyone else in any relationship. Both parties know what they're doing, even if one complains later on that they were used. Okay, so Glenn says, interesting quote. My observations tell me that some people have no idea why or what they're doing in a certain relationship, let alone recognize that they are being manipulated. What do you think? Are we always aware if we are manipulating or being manipulated? And we'll start with Jen on this one. This is a great question. What do you think? Jen, do we know if we're being manipulated or if we're manipulating or being manipulated? I'm tripping on my tongue a little bit tonight for some reason. Maybe it's all the reading I've been doing. Maybe my tongue's tired.
It may be.
Yeah. Anyway.
I'm not totally sure. I can only kind of base it off my own experience. And when I look back at my past marriage, I feel like there was a part of me, a very small part of my gut that knew something was off.
Yeah.
But I at that point, I had gotten so good at ignoring my inner voice that it was just like smoke in the wind,
Yeah.
But now, especially after getting out of that situation and educating myself a lot on manipulative people, I still I still get like manipulated. It's not something where like I can recognize a lot of things, but I think manipulative people can be very diverse in their tactics.
Oh,
And
sure.
sometimes you don't recognize it until like a few minutes later. You're like, what the hell? Like, how did that happen?
Yeah.
So the,
Some
yeah,
of,
go
sorry,
ahead.
I didn't mean to interrupt. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say some are not. They're more than a one-trick pony when it comes to manipulating. Is what you're
Yeah,
saying.
yeah. So with the question being, are we always aware if we are manipulating or being manipulated? I don't think so.
Right.
But I keep going back to last week. It's like maybe there are some manipulative tendencies, even if they don't have horrible intent, that we've
Right.
seen modeled to us through growing up and seeing other adults and other children doing it.
Right.
So it's like this learned happening, this learned place of being that you just pick up. And so it's sort of like second nature in some ways.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's
Yeah.
a tough question, Glenn. Bravo on the tough questions.
It is. So here's the follow-up, Jen. So you mentioned in your former marriage. What about before that? As you think back, do you feel like you knew when someone's manipulating you, or did you know? Nah.
No.
No. I think okay, so I'll go next. Thank you, Jen.
Yeah.
I think that, as Jen's saying, we learn it from watching other people do it. And I think for me, I started out trusting everyone. And
Yeah, same.
I don't know how other children are, but I assume that when we're born, we instantly trust most people. I mean, I have met some kids that seem wary, but we don't know what's happened to them to make them wary. Was it some event or did, someone in their life that they learned even at an early age that everyone can't be trusted? I don't know. But for me, it's something I learned. I don't think I knew early on what manipulation was, and certainly didn't know if I was doing it to someone else. But I think that we encounter situations with people that are manipulators. Like Jen also was implying, some people may not know they're doing it, but you can see it. It becomes clear to you when the same things happen again and again. Like if you're with a friend who's always asking you to do stuff with them, but it's always their idea. And then when you want to do something, they don't want to do it. It's just an example. So they might be manipulating to do things they want to do and forget about what you want to do. There's some other issues there besides manipulation, but there it is. As far as manipulating another person, I feel horrified. I know that I've done it. We talked about that last week and some examples of how we've done it. But at this point, I don't like it. I don't like being a manipulator, and I don't like people trying to manipulate me. Both are triggers, quote unquote, for me. So I try to avoid it. And if I notice I'm doing it, it's something I work on. So that's my answer. So I don't think we're always aware. That's the point. Are we always aware? No. Can we learn to be aware? I think we can. I think we can be more open to understanding if we're being manipulated, and certainly keep ourselves from doing it and see what those signs are. And I think we can see how people react to us, whether it's manipulation or not. And as I said to Jen right before the show, and I said on last week's show, it's not manipulation if the person knows what you're doing. If you're being direct, or if they have a good understanding of you as a person and understand why you're doing something, I don't feel like it's manipulation. Just my opinion. We'll go to our friend Marisa. Marisa, what do you think? Do we know we are manipulating or being manipulated?
Going back to last week, we must remember that, I brought up at the end of the show that if you are manipulating, if you yourself are manipulating something or someone, then you know you're doing it. You can't subconsciously manipulate. That is a conscious activity and effort. Now, the actions of other people may manipulate us, whether or not that person may intend. And in turn, we can also manipulate people without us intending to.
Right.
But as for straight up doing something to get somebody to do something that we want, I think we pretty much know when that's going on.
Great.
Children, I think, learn that early.
Yeah.
You manipulate your parents by crying to get what you want. Do you want a bottle? Do you want diaper change? Do you want a toy? That's,
Interesting.
they're doing something to get a desired result. So
Wow, that's a good point, Maurice. I didn't think of it from the aspect of like an infant who who knows nothing other than that they're hungry or they're wet,
right,
or they
right.
need sleep.
Or they
So,
want a cookie, or fill in
well,
the blank.
that's later. But I was thinking about an infant and who can't communicate, and that's the only way they have to communicate. But they are in a sense manipulating, even though they have no awareness of that's what they're doing. But they're being direct. Wah, I'm hungry. Wah, I need sleep. I mean, they're trying to say what they want. So I don't know. Maybe it's.
I mean, like I said, you can call it manipulation, but manipulation is getting somebody to do something by something you do, by stimuli you set in motion.
Right.
So,
Fascinating. Thank you, Marisa. Appreciate your answer. And Glenn, last up is you. What do you think? Are we always aware if we are manipulating or being manipulated? What do you have to say?
I almost feel like I want to take an each way bet.
Yeah. You're a little bit quiet, Glenn.
Oh, okay. I'll turn my volume up. See if that.
Oh, that's better.
The better?
Yeah. Not sure if you lean forward, but that's better.
Sure. Okay. I agree with what Nez said. I think if you are manipulating, you know it. Now, as a look, this is a really tough question. I don't think these out just because I write them. So I'm sort of stuck in the moment here. And the first thing came to my mind was to sort of answer this with a question to Jen, is that do you think in your case that when you were being manipulated that a part of you subconsciously was actually open to being manipulated?
Yeah, I do. I was so I was waiting my whole life almost up until that point. I was waiting around for people to tell me what to do. It wasn't that I wanted to be bossed around, but I didn't trust myself to such a deep level that I truly was waiting not just for someone to tell me who I was, but someone to tell me what to do. I think why, the earlier part of my adulthood, I've just sort of been floating around job to job where the wind blows, like a tumbleweed. Because I just was waiting for, and so I think in that place of wanting someone to tell me what to do, I think it really sets you up to be manipulated. And I think there's a part of me that knew, but was okay because at least someone was telling me. I don't know if any of that made sense, but.
Well, it makes sense what I was able to hear, babe. I'm sorry to say this, but you're breaking up. I don't know if it's that internet thing again or not. I understood you most up until the last sentence, and I don't want you to lose what you're saying.
Yeah.
So try the last sentence.
I was saying, can you hear me okay?
Yes, thank you.
I think there was a part of me that knew I was opening myself up to manipulation, but was okay with it because at least someone was telling me what to do. Because I didn't know what to do.
Okay.
So, Jenny, quickly, are you saying you needed to be manipulated for some kind of innate fulfillment here? I know this is really weird, but that's what I'm hearing. What did you need from what did you need out of this? By understanding that now that you sort of had put yourself in a place. It's like you've set yourself up, married the very person who would do what you had a need for, if I should put it that way.
Which what she's saying is she needed someone to tell her what to do.
Yeah. I had no direction. Exactly. I didn't trust myself. I didn't, I hate to say this, but I feel like a part of me was stunted to where I didn't know how to make decisions for myself. Like I knew how to make minor, shallow decisions.
Right.
But I was known as the daughter who walked around taking polls from everybody in my family because I was so afraid to make my own choice. That's how much I didn't trust myself. And I do think there was a part of me that was so afraid to fail. I thought if someone else makes the decision for me and it bombs, I can blame them and it's not my fault.
Right.
Which is really
So-
like twisted.
Jen, here's my follow-up question, and I want to stay close to topic, but what Glenn has brought up brings up another, at least interesting to me. So did you just get tired of it? Because no one told you to leave that marriage. You decided to do that on your own.
Yeah, I
So-
got really tired of it. What was
So
there
you
another part?
didn't, yeah, well, just more follow-up. You didn't take polls. You didn't ask people what
Mm-mm.
you should do. You came up with your own conclusion. And in fact, I remember when you told everyone that that's what you were doing, there wasn't any like conversation before that I'm aware of with anybody.
Yeah, I just made the decision and told people.
Right. So,
I'm not quite sure where that came from. I do
I
think
think-
I was just so tired. I was wanting to die. I felt like death, whether my death or his death, was the only way out,
right.
which is really sad because there are other options. Because I didn't feel like I had a choice to leave,
Yeah.
because of God hates divorce and because of, our family and just what people would think and all of that stuff, be some kind of mar on me for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
I just was tired. I was at the end of my rope. And I thought, okay, if I'm like ready to die, not that I was suicidal, but I was ready to die and I'm that done, and there's so much scariness on the other side of this. If I leave, there's so much unknown and so many things I've never done before. And there's going to be judgment and, people picking sides and, so on and so forth. And I thought, I don't care. It is that bad. I don't care. I don't care what I have to face on the other end. I need out.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. So you know what I'm going to say, right?
I have no idea.
I think I think that has always been in you to make decisions.
I think so too.
Yeah.
I just wasn't positive that I had that in me,
Yeah.
that same strength that I use to monitor people and monitor the emotional atmosphere of the house and monitor my dad to see if he was getting close to blowing up. So maybe I could do something, anything to keep him from blowing up. I think that where that came from, that energy and that passion to like try to be the peacekeeper. I think that's that same place where that comes from, that strength to be like, okay, I'm done. I'm out. Like, I'm just going to jump off the cliff.
Yeah. Well, either that or you just up and decided to, have some stones, and you still do. I wouldn't cross you. I've seen you cut people off. I quickly and decisively, I'm just done. And that's amazing to me to go from what you're saying you were like to where you are now and where you were when you left your abusive marriage. It blows my mind. Okay. Do you have any follow-up, Jen, or did we?
Oh, no. I hope I didn't talk too much. I'm sorry. I wasn't trying to take over that.
Not at all. No. I want to, we just got on the topic there and that's what we do. Sometimes that's what we do. But Glenn was answering. So I just want to make sure he's done answering the question for him. So the question is, are we always aware if we're manipulating or being manipulated? And then he asked you a question. So I want to make sure.
I did. And I'm sort of, if you had to say which way am I leaning, I'm leaning towards the quote more so now than when I thought of more so now I've thought about it. But I'm thinking for Jen, just because I know what's coming next week.
Right.
Just to put an idea in your head, is that are you still in some situations still appeasing the manipulator?
Yeah, I think so. Jason and I were talking about this today. And I think there is something that I get out of continuing to play the role for my family. It's like they may not love me in the way that I want or show me respect or even interact with me in the ways that I desire. But I think there is something childlike in me that gets it's like I want them to need me in this certain way. And so if they need me to play the role, there's a part of me that wants to do that for them.
Wow.
So the imagery is really that you can't be loved unless you submit to being
Yeah.
manipulated. That's
Yeah.
very heavy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's also textbook narcissistic abuse.
Right. Right. And the person doing that caused that's definitely narcissistic abuse. I would agree with you, Marisa.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Now this question is not highlighted, which means it wasn't intended to answer a question, but I think it's a good one. Can some people just geez, what is up with my mouth?
The Crip's tongue is tired.
Yeah, my gosh. Okay.
Would you like me to take over hosting duties?
Yeah, that'd be great. I think
You're doing such a good job. So keep going.
I think you do such a phenomenal job, babe. Can some people be just as threatening when their license to kill is revoked? So I'm obviously thinking not about someone that has a gun and actually killing people, but metaphorically, if a person has the license to kill in a relationship, as is asserted at the beginning of the write-up, what happens when you take away their license to kill? You revoke their license to kill. I was just thinking about the reaction from some people that could cause. Anyone want to comment on that?
It's ended up in murder before.
Right. Right. Exactly.
What do you say, Marisa?
I say when you cut off the abuser, I agree, anything can happen. And you've got to be concerned for your safety above everything else.
Right.
No, that's why they keep saying no contact when at all possible when you are not just a narcissist, but anybody's who is being abusive to you. Now there's people that parent together, there's sometimes you've got to see that other person. I get it. But, always exercise caution. You never know what they're going to try. And if you're specifically with narcissists, they will stoop to new lows. Just when you think they haven't gone low enough, they'll hire a ditch witch and dig even lower. So just be careful. No contact is really the best way to go. And even though it can sometimes end up in physical violence, usually I believe from what I've researched and experienced, if you take away their power, they're going to lose interest sooner or later. And if you don't acknowledge them, hooray for you. You're not giving them energy anymore. You're not giving them supply. So that's why they do what they do in the first place.
Wow. I agree. Glenn, any comment on that one?
I wasn't really thinking of it in terms of physical violence. I was I was thinking more of it. Well, they can be threatening, say, through your kids.
Yeah.
They can poison your kids. Yeah. That's a threat to you because you children are like sponges.
Yeah.
They take that. They can just, even if you have contact. Oh, look, they can tell. They can talk to your friends. People who want to hurt you can still do so very significantly, even if they don't have a gun in their hand. That's the point.
Yeah.
So I think there's a lot of vulnerability there, regardless of what you do. There's always a way, if people are determined, that people will find to seek retribution or to hurt you.
Yeah.
So that was more like saying, well, just because they got a license to kill doesn't mean they can't hurt you. That's the bottom line.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you, Glenn.
Thank you.
All right. Well, we'll move on. Just wanted to say hello to Believe. He came in a little bit earlier, and I think we're in the middle of having people answer. I just wanted to make sure and greet him and welcome him. Glad that you're here, as always. Thank you. Okay. I had to scroll down a little bit for the next question, and the sentence before it is, a trade was made to get into such a relationship. Now there is a stay/go scenario again. Fundamentally, is it not go? Is not go just a perceived flight to freedom? Is not go just a perceived flight to freedom? Glenn, do you want to fill that out a little bit? I want to make sure I understand what you're saying. You're saying that if a person goes, is that a false perception of freedom?
No, I'm questioning whether that is the motivation. Is freedom the motivation for going?
Yeah.
Or is there more to this? Or is there more here? But fundamentally, is it freedom?
Okay.
Yes or no?
All right. We started with Jen last time, so I'm going to start with Marisa this time. What do you think, Marisa? Is the goal freedom? And is it real or imagined?
Well, I think that comes to what we discussed in a previous show about being healthy and being able to determine if you're in a healthy relationship or not. And it's wonderful to want to be free from an abusive situation, whatever that might be. But I think maybe Glenn's pointing out that just because you break out of that abusive cycle, that abusive relationship, if you're not going to attend to your own health, that who's to say that that can't start again with someone else?
Yeah.
Oh, well, sure.
So, I mean, freedom certainly, but your true freedom is going to come when you realize your worth and what is acceptable and what is not. So yeah, it's freedom. I can speak from experience. I was seeking to get free from the hell I was in, certainly, but I had to do some work on me after I was free to help make sure I wasn't going to fall back into that abusive cycle.
Exactly. Yeah, Jen, we know a lot about that from the Victorious Voices. We see people get in these relationships again and again, some people 4 or 5 times before they realize or they see their worth or decide that they're not going to take that kind of treatment anymore. Let's go to you next, Jen. What do you say? It's perceived flight to freedom.
Yeah, I think it depends. I do think on one end, yes, it's freedom from that constant abuse.
Right.
Like Marisa said, if you're not working on yourself, because, and I can understand why this is a really touchy subject with people that are survivors, from being victims of narcissistic abuse or any abuse, or manipulation. Because what was I going to say? Crap on a cracker. So if you're not getting help, that's what I was going to say. So this is like a taboo topic of there is something in us, whether it was taught to us or we learned it by watching or whatever, that it's a dance. We know we have a part to play, and that those two roles that come together within a relationship that's toxic. And so if we're not addressing what in us attracted them, what in us caused us to stay as long as we did, not that anyone's guilting anybody, but just to understand it so that you can meticulously work on fixing those empty places or voids or needs that are not healthy for you, all of that stuff. To be able to not allow another person to come back in. I mean, or they might, or just kick them to the curb quicker or leave quicker, or see them coming a mile away and be like, nope, I'm taking the train.
Well, that's the eventual goal, I think, for most people.
Yeah. I see the red flags waving above their head. I'm getting the hell out of here. I can see you off.
Thanks, Jen.
Yeah.
What about you, Glenn? Perceived flight to freedom?
Yeah, at a base level, I think that's it. Get out of here. I need to get away.
Yeah,
I can't deal with it.
Right.
I mean, as I'll come to some of the questions that are a bit more specific.
Sure.
What did we trade out? I mean, yeah. Well, I'll let you get to that, but essentially, yes, freedom.
Okay. All right. Great. I don't think I can add anything. I agree with what everyone is saying. I think I'll just add this one thing. So if you're in an abusive relationship, and as Jen was saying, there's no reflection on anyone, but I agree with what she says, that, you said yes. There's a part of you that said yes to this relationship, and maybe they love bombed you, and maybe you couldn't see it at all. But at the point in which you understood, and you stayed with the person, there's some responsibility for that. But leaving, I think for most people, it gives you some freedom. At least you're not in that relationship anymore, but you don't heal and prevent yourself from getting into it again if there's not some personal work done. I say there's some personal work in just leaving in the first place, but there's a lot that comes behind that too, hopefully.
Yeah.
Okay, so the next one is the next sentence after this one. I believe most of us have done go, or at least contemplated the same. Hence, on a personal level, what reasons did you seek your freedom? For example, did you trade out your expectation and the desires of the heart? Maybe the trade was simply a poor one to begin with, and you wanted out. Was it that you felt the other person was unsafe? Maybe they had nothing more to offer you. There's a myriad of other reasons. Okay, so this is all together, and I'll answer first. We did Marisa and Jen. What reasons did you seek your freedom? The marriage I was in, I don't think the person was fully narcissistic. Definitely had patterns, but I didn't leave. Initially, I didn't leave. It was her that wanted to leave, and I'm glad that she did. But I wasn't seeking freedom in that way. Now, as I look at the relationship, there were certainly things that I needed freedom from, and I've talked about that and until people are nauseous. But it is an aspect of all these abusive relationships. Did I give up expectations and desires of my heart? Yeah, because I married a dream. I married someone who I was seeing the best in her and hoped for the best out of her, and she promised that, but didn't keep her promises. But what's wrong with me that I would allow myself to be married to just the expectations and desires of the heart? I feel like that's what I was doing. It wasn't a reality to me. So there were trades. Glenn asked, maybe the trade was simply a poor one to begin with, and you wanted out. Again, I wasn't aware that I wanted out. I'm aware of that now, that there were parts of me that were screaming to get out. But I said I do. So for me, that was a duty. And it's delightful to be in a relationship where I don't feel duty. I just feel love. And I didn't expect to be able to feel those things, but it's a completely different scenario where I'm in a relationship where I don't have to have expectations and the desires of my heart are fulfilled. And it's not just her that's doing it. It's me that's doing it. And that's a different place to be in. And I think that's what both Marisa and Jen were saying earlier. You have to do it for you. You have to do the work on you. You have to realize your own worth. Those are all part of it. Was it what you felt the other person? Did I feel the other person was unsafe? As far as support and encouragement, yeah, she was unsafe. She only supported and encouraged in areas where she felt comfortable, and there wasn't many, and they were more surface level instead of deep. Now I have a person that is safe in every possible way. And it gives me the desire to be safe in every possible way for her as well. But I didn't have that. So yes, there were parts of me in looking back that felt unsafe in that relationship. Maybe they had nothing more to offer. That's a fact, because maybe the person would have had more to offer, but they weren't willing to do what it takes to offer more. They're too busy worried about themselves. So that was the focus. That was where the time was spent, and there wasn't anything to offer, in my opinion. Okay, does anyone have a burning desire to answer this set of questions to go next?
Yeah, I'll answer it.
Okay, Glenn?
And I'll drop myself right in it at the same time.
Okay, all right.
I'm used to that now. It doesn't feel like it used to in the age past where you think, "Oh, I can't say that."
All right.
I don't care. Look, it's the truth as I see it. You can think what you like.
You've grown and matured, Glenn.
I'm trying.
Yeah, right.
I'm not a leaver by nature. I really am not. I'm and I didn't. I've never really been one to seek my freedom. Now that so you could say that I'm loyal by nature, but even if that loyalty is misguided or not, it doesn't. It's just the person. Okay,
Right.
So when I look at all those examples, I trade out expectations. Maybe, well, yeah, well, that went down the chute. Maybe the trade was simply a poor one to begin with, and I wanted out. Oh yeah, the trade was a poor one to begin with, but I have to own that. That was my responsibility. See,
Oh, okay.
so I got into it. I have to full. I do. I full well accept that the poor trade on my part was very much related to my personal inadequacy.
Right.
So therefore, I've got to own it. So,
Yeah.
So I didn't see it as a poor one to begin with.
Right.
I saw it as the only one I could do.
Right.
I mean, this is a bit perverted and sicko, but it's the truth. Because I'm at the bottom level in the self-esteem stakes at this point in my life. Okay, so
Mhm.
I set myself up. Did I feel the other person was unsafe? In my gut, yeah.
Okay.
But when you have a need to rescue somebody, that's overridden, isn't it?
Yeah.
They call it codependence, real off the charts. So.
Sure.
Okay, to cut to the chase, I needed her to leave. Now, if she had not taken my child with her,
Right.
well, I would have thought, okay, I can deal with this. But I remember at the time, really clearly, I thought that by her leaving, it was like the end of the world.
Yeah.
My goodness. And then on reflection, I'm sort of breaking out the champagne bottles.
Right.
Because she set me free.
Yeah.
I didn't seek my freedom. She gave it to me.
Yep.
So
Same.
yeah.
Same. Before we move on, I just, if you don't mind, I want to ask you to the question about being unsafe. You said that, yeah, they were unsafe. Do you mind saying in what way for you they were unsafe?
Unsafe. That's just a very good question. Can you give me 10 seconds to think about it?
Oh, of course.
Okay. I knew she was unsafe primarily because her relationship with her family was off the charts unsafe. There was no love from either her mother or her family for her. I thought you've got to be damaged by this. Like, I mean, it to me, it's just logical.
Right.
They treated her as like that. Like, I'll give you an example.
Okay.
Was they said, if you go to university and sign up for accountancy, we'll pay your fees for you. But if you want to do biology, we're not paying.
Wow. Yeah.
That's a disgrace to my mind.
Yeah.
So you have everything that she had experienced in her life from family was conditional.
Wow.
I mean, that when you think, and I honestly was thinking, well, you have to be damaged. But my mistake was I thought my role was to fix her.
Yeah.
That is totally misguided.
Yeah.
I couldn't fix her. It was impossible. Even if I wanted to, I couldn't.
Right.
So eventually the natural conclusion is reached that you've got two people who are really dysfunctional. Where do you think that's going to end?
Yeah.
It's going down the tube. It's just a case of when. And it did.
Wow.
So
thank you, Glenn. I can relate to a lot of that from your perspective and from her perspective. That's very helpful. Appreciate you answering.
What I'm saying is it certainly, on reflection, changed my attitude towards it. Look, I was so angry about this and all the legal proceedings and that. If I had my time over, I would have said, take the money.
Yeah.
I really would have. I don't want it.
Right.
Just take it.
Wow.
So there goes my phone. I'll just mute. Thanks.
Yeah.
Might be the hot. Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Glenn. I appreciate your answer. All right, Marisa, you're up on this one, and it's kind of a full question, so I can ask. You can either answer from your perspective if you're able to see it, or I can go question by question if you'd like.
Question by question, please.
Oh, thank you. Okay. What reasons did you seek your freedom?
Even though I didn't know at the time, and I'm thinking, farther back in time, when I didn't know about narcissistic abuse, and I didn't know just much about what was really classified as abusive behavior.
Yeah.
I still knew that I wasn't happy. I did not believe I was being treated the way people should treat one another.
Yeah.
Especially when you're in the dynamic of a allegedly romantic, monogamous relationship.
Sure.
And I just got tired of being unhappy and tired of making someone else unhappy. That's where my mind was at.
Wow. That's both.
Years ago. Yeah. So I was only not wanting to end my suffering, but
right.
If I was so terrible and if I had any part in making the other person, which I didn't know at the time, people were going to have problems, whether it was me or anybody else. Wow. But yeah, I thought of both parties. I just wanted it all to stop.
Yeah. Okay. And did you trade out your expectations and desires of your heart?
Absolutely. That could be the title of my memoir.
Yes.
I'll tell my artist friend Floyd Bingo to do a painting about that. Oh my God.
Yes.
Jen, just draw that for me, would you? Selling out of my expectations and my dreams. Oh, there's a song in there somewhere too.
She could do it.
But yeah, I say that because we all have fantasies, we all have dreams, we all have hopes, visions, things, expectations of our own design, of what we're programmed to want. Don't forget about societal and familial programming of what we are told we want and we should have.
Ooh,
mix good. All that up, and in the real, allegedly real world, you often don't get many, if any, of those fantastical things.
Right.
And I don't mean being rich and having a mansion and servants and all of that, but I mean having that idealized relationship where it's monogamous, it's happy, it's committed, it's both giving equally and receiving good things from each other equally. That fairy tale scenario, yeah. I think, especially as a woman in this world, in this country, I think you quite often sell out your preconceived notions of what you think you want, or you're told that you want, or you're programmed to want, and you deal with what you've got. You can only play the cards that are dealt to you.
Sure.
And a lot of times those cards have a lot of jokers, a lot of sometimes the card with all the rules on it, that doesn't have a face on it at all. Yeah. And that's really the best we can do, is just play the hand we're dealt.
Sure. Okay. Maybe the trade was simply a poor one to begin with, and you wanted out. Is that the case? Was it a poor trade and you just wanted out?
Hindsight, of course, 2020, and looking back, 50-year-old me looking back at decisions that 20-something and 30-something Marisa made, hell, even 40-something, I can, look back now, I can say, well, that was a bad choice and I shouldn't have done that. But in that way, it may well be true. But when you're living it and you're in the moment and you're sincerely trying, I was trying to have a normal life, to have just the basic, committed relationship, to have those comforts that come with trust and love and respect and intimacy with the man. And the biggest disappointment for me was not, now looking back, is not how they behaved,
right,
but how I behaved. And that comes back to Glenn talking about owning up, not justifying what was done to me. All that was very real.
Right.
But I had to get where I could say, I don't deserve that.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not perfect, but I sure as hell don't deserve that.
Sure.
You know, that being abusive, neglectful, horrible treatment.
Yeah.
Whether it's physically, mentally, emotionally, fill in the blank.
Yeah. Okay. I have two more to ask you, but I want to say hello to David, who popped in the
Hello,
chat.
David Fitton. That's Floyd Bingo's brother. Hi.
Hey, Floyd
Cool.
Bingo's brother, David. Welcome. We're glad that you're here, and thank you for your comment. I'll just read the comment real quick. David says, hurt people hurt people. I'm not responsible for my emptiness and addiction, but I am somewhat responsible for my recovery and steps toward freedom. Beautiful. Thank you, David, for your comment. I appreciate it very much. Okay, Marisa, two more. What was it that you felt the other person was unsafe?
I'll say yes, not because I was in mortal physical danger necessarily, but abuse is never acceptable. And that's a danger to you in every way possible, including your
Right.
physical health. Because when you're being mistreated like that, and chronically so, and for extended periods of time, months, years, that
Sure.
takes a toll on you, your mental
Yeah.
health, emotional, spiritual, and your physical health.
Right.
Remember that list I read a couple shows back about what John Hopkins' website listed as very real side effects that come
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
from that negative treatment and mindset.
Absolutely.
So yeah, they were unsafe. They were unsafe for me, not because I felt feared for my life in my cases, but
Right.
other people do have to fear
Oh,
for their physical
absolutely.
safety. Sadly to say.
Absolutely. Thank you, Marisa. Last one. Maybe they had nothing more to offer you. What do you say about that?
I think that's true because even though the abusers, what they do is not good, they are what they are.
Yeah.
And they have the option to reach out for help and acknowledge they have certain problems and to
Yes.
try to work on it. Or
Yes.
they can just either not acknowledge and just pretend that it's everybody else's fault and certainly nothing that they would need any help for. Or
Sure.
just fear that some of them know they have problems and just are lazy or apathetic or fearful about going to get that help. Well, what would my mother say if I went to just fill in the blank.
Right.
They're more worried about what other people are going to say if they went to get help rather than going to get the help.
Yeah. The stigma. Yeah.
Right.
Thank you, Marisa. Appreciate your answer. Jen, sorry you had to wait so long, but you'll have just as
it's
much
fine.
time.
I really
What
enjoyed
reasons?
Ness's answers.
Yeah, absolutely. On a personal level, Jen, what reasons did you seek your freedom?
Oh, gosh. I think a big one was finding my self-worth.
Right.
Recognizing through a lot of different things, one of them being talking with Glenn and hearing some of your mother's stories.
Right.
And sort of seeing her choices play out before her. She described some things that really hit me. And being able to see sort of like it from an outside view, what I had to look forward to.
Yeah.
Which was not good. It was consistently getting worse. Especially when I had been chatting with Glenn for months and kind of owning my own stuff and
Sure.
recognizing that whether or not he changes, I can change what I'm doing. I have
Yeah.
control over that. Whereas before, I truly did not believe. I really felt he is in control of me. I do not have control over myself. I was his
Right.
robot.
Yeah.
So that was huge to figure out. So self-worth for sure.
Okay.
And just recognizing that I only get this one life. I don't want, it was like that relationship was throwing it down the garbage disposal.
Yeah.
And I just was like, I just made the decision. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to waste any more time throwing this precious gift of life down the garbage disposal.
Right. Wow.
So, yeah.
Okay. Did you trade your expectations and the desires of your heart?
Being in a relationship
Yeah, I think that's what he
or
means.
okay.
Yeah, like
Yeah, within the
yeah,
relationship.
right.
I I just started getting erased. And my dreams, they never actually left me. They just got buried further into the back of my mind, my heart.
Yeah, yeah,
So it was this sort of thing where, and I've done a couple art pieces on it where I've got the inside of me and the little girl, playing in some dress up dress or, just it was still alive. It just had been
yeah.
minimized so much.
Sure,
Um, so
sure.
yeah, there was a lot of dreams that it was almost like I pushed them aside and I kept telling myself, I'll get to it. I'll do it one day. One day he'll set aside time to do this with me, or we'll go on that trip and I'll be able to do
Yeah,
photography, or it was just always, I was future faking myself because
yeah,
he kept promising me through words. He kept
sure.
telling me what I wanted to hear, and I
Yeah,
kept believing him, and I kept telling myself what I wanted, and I kept believing me. I was lying to
yeah,
myself. So when a certain amount of time passed and I recognized, okay, nothing has changed, nothing. If anything, it's getting
yeah.
worse. I was like, yeah, run.
Right, right. Follow-up question to that one, Jen. And so, how does it feel? Do you feel now like you can have your own expectations and the desires of your heart?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah,
And
that's quite a.
I just never thought I would feel this.
Oh, me neither. So we're in the same boat there. But feeling it now, there's nothing that compares to that. I mean, the two relationships, the one that I'm mentioning, doesn't even compare, even in the smallest bit, to what it's like now. I mean, I feel like in fact, you're encouraging of my expectations and desires of my heart for myself, which I haven't experienced that probably never in my life from anyone. So that's a real gift. Maybe the trade was simply a poor one to begin with, and you wanted out. Was it a poor trade, Jen?
Uh, um, you mean which, gosh, I can't talk. What each person got in the relationship? Is that what that means?
I
Like,
think
because
he's focusing on your trade. So earlier in the write up, he was talking about, do we trade one thing for another? So when you got in this relationship, follow up to the question above, did you trade out your expectations and desires of your heart? And then he's saying maybe the trade was simply a poor one to begin with, meaning getting into the relationship from the start was a poor
yeah,
idea.
yeah, support. Yeah.
Okay. And
Yeah.
did you feel like the other person? I mean, I know the answer to these, but was it that you felt the other person was unsafe?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, that question's weird. Is he saying in reference to the leaving, to the reason of leaving, or the
In
fact that
in
it
the
was that trade?
well, it's a different question, but they're all related. So in the relationship, he's basically asking, what are the reasons you sought your freedom? And then these are examples. They're just follow-up questions. So it's all about
Okay.
why you sought your freedom. So was
Yeah.
it that you felt the other person was unsafe? Is your reason for leaving?
Yeah, that was a big part.
Yeah.
I I wish I could explain all of the many thousands of reasons why he wasn't safe that was displayed every day.
Right.
Um,
Right.
and living constant anxiety and stress, because not only did you have these moments of rage, on the flip side of that, it was not knowing when it was going to happen. Reese, I don't know if you went through this, but my ex had like a certain set of rules and a very long rules. And it wasn't something he gave me at the beginning of the relationship. It was something that I learned by observing. I meticulously observed every single facial expression, sigh, grunt, his tone,
Yeah.
body language. And it sort of made up this list of rules because I didn't want to make him mad. And it was so explosive that
Yeah.
I just kept coming up with this list of rules in my head of what to do and what not to do and how to do it, and how quick or how slow, or I mean, insanity. And so, but when the person that's in charge keeps changing the rules, like
Yeah.
1 week it's anything in front of my sweet tea in the fridge, and the next week I do it and I forgot. He doesn't react. And I'm watching
Yeah.
all this and I'm thinking, why didn't he react? Is it the
Yeah.
game? Did he change his mind? No longer, like, it's just insanity. And I completely forgot the question. But no, he was not safe. He was definitely not safe. It's
Yeah,
just
that's the question.
dealing with just insanity.
Yeah.
I just want to say, Jen, yeah, I went through that too. And Dr. Carter, Dr. Les Carter,
Yeah.
Dr. Romney, those experts, particularly regarding narcissistic abuse, they call that moving the goalpost.
Yeah.
Narcissists will move the goalpost. What was good or supposed to be good and please them or appease them one moment can change to the next. And you get stuck in that cycle. Jen, I was there where no matter what I did, no matter what I said or didn't say, no matter how I cooked this or prepared that, there was always going to be a problem. So
Yep.
yeah, I feel you there. I've been there.
A constant
Yeah.
loser. They can never win. Ooh, yeah, that's definitely a place of unsafety.
Yeah. Yeah. Last one. Before I ask the question, I just want to say hello to Debbie, who popped in the chat. Hello, Debbie. We're glad you're here. She was also at Jen and Nez's stream last night on Nez Lover's channel. Okay, last one. Maybe they had nothing more to offer you. Did your ex have anything more to offer you? Do you think you got everything he was willing to offer?
Say it one more time.
Yeah. So the question is, maybe they had nothing. The reason you sought your freedom. So we've gone over all these other reasons.
Yeah. I just wanted you to repeat it.
Yeah, of course. Maybe they had nothing more to offer you. Was that a reason they didn't have anything more to offer you, your ex?
They definitely didn't have anything
Right.
more to offer me, because the dance I was doing, the need I had in myself, the sick need to be in this abusive situation from my own, just childhood trauma and my own twisted needs or what I thought it was to be needed, all that stuff. It started to change. And I no longer had a need to stay with someone that would prove to me through his treatment of me that I was a loser. I was helped to see that I'm not, and that I should be treated better, and that there were people out there that wanted to treat me better and did treat me better.
Yeah.
And it just completely shifted things in me. And he had absolutely nothing to offer me but
Yeah.
a lifetime of hell if I stayed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Jen.
Yeah.
I know that was a lot. I just posted Bobby's comment. They say sometimes the only thing people have left to offer you is more abuse. Wow.
Wow.
Yeah, it's true.
Very, Bobby, that's so true.
Okay. For tonight, let's say that detachment is simply emotional distancing ourselves from another person. That is to put ourselves into a place of not reacting, no matter what they or anyone else like them says or does. So why do you think many people find it so difficult to not find themselves on an emotional roller coaster every time they are reminded of past situations? And we'll go to the opposite end. These questions were so long. So we'll ask Glenn first on this one. What do you think, Glenn?
Yeah, thanks for dropping me in it.
Okay.
Honestly, I don't know, because I don't know. It's not me. It's not me. I'm not affected by this. I've told you this before.
Yeah.
I remain intrigued to the max.
Yeah.
As to why it's so difficult. So I'm looking for inspirational thinking from everybody here to enlighten me, please.
Well, I would love to try to answer it. I'm not saying I'm completely right, but what I've observed is that we're trained from the very time that we breathe up until the time that we leave. We're trained to be on this emotional roller coaster that someone else built. Now, I'm not saying it's not a responsibility. The moment you realize that that's what's happening, you should find a way to get off, even if it means jumping from the car.
Yep.
And some people metaphorically are in that same, or even physically being in a situation where on that, whatever the roller coaster is that you're on, you're unsafe, as we talked about on the question above, and getting yourself out. And some people pay a heavy price to get out. You know, it's having, if they hold all the money and having to leave, there's a financial risk of jumping out of the car. There's kids involved, and it means pulling them out of school. And for some people, it's changing your name and going to the other side of the country and trying to hide and not have them find you. So, but I think these people just didn't decide one day to accept abuse. It was training. And yes, low self-esteem. Yeah, if you have low self-esteem, please work on it. But who's responsible initially for a person having low self-esteem? I think a lot of people. You know, we've done broadcasts where I've gone on and on about schools do it, parents do it, other friends do it, society itself does it. These things make people unsafe. Now the person gets to a point, in my opinion, where they have to decide what they want for their lives. Do you want to be controlled and manipulated by others and put into these situations? Yes, you chose it, but someone lured you there. There was training involved to get into this roller coaster. Now, again, hopefully everyone comes to the point where once you realize this is what's happening, then you do what is necessary to get out of that roller coaster and change the way that you're reacting to these situations, these past situations. I've done it. I've done it. I've had the same situation cause me to go up the ramp and get ready for the plummet down. And in some ways, a roller coaster is fun like that. But if you're sick to your stomach and you feel unsafe and you're not getting much joy out of it, it's a nightmare to be in that place. I mean, I've had times where I thought I had licked something. Like I've dealt with this. Jen and I have talked about this many times. You know, you've gone to counseling, you've worked on it. The person's not even in your life anymore. And then something happens that gives you the same feelings that you felt in that relationship. And we call them triggers. That's the psychobabble word. It's triggers. But it's just when you're in the situation, you're like, it feels familiar. I don't like this feeling. What's happening? And you're reacting to it. And the answer to this, and it's probably different for everyone how they get out of it, but you practice. You keep practicing when these situations come up, handling them better each time. Maybe some people overnight, they just decide they're done with it and they never react again. I don't know any people like that, but maybe they're out there somewhere. I think most people have to work at it. It's work to deprogram yourself. However you've been trained, whoever trained you, it's difficult to change. It's not impossible. I mean, I think I'm still changing in many ways in regards to my family of origin and things that they do. It's been a while since the last trigger or incident, and a lot of that is that I've changed. Most of them haven't changed much. Some have, but it's about me not reacting to the situations. But I didn't just wake up one day and it was changed. It took work. So we started with Glenn and I answered. So let's go to you, Jen, this time, and we'll hear from Marisa. Why do you think it's so difficult to not find themselves on an emotional roller coaster every time they're reminded of past situations? What do you say?
Ooh, I just learned this one recently.
Right. That's why it's such a great question.
I know for me, when I have run into people that are unhealthy or toxic or manipulative, and they have triggered me so badly that I have to cut them off and leave. Or if I can't, it just wrecks my body. My neck gets tight, my shoulders, my face muscles, my jaw starts freaking out. I know it's connected to my family.
Yeah.
It triggers these wounds that I've gotten within my family dynamic. And it's that whole like wanting a certain response from people to you, and that dance of a relationship, whether it's work or friendship or whatever, and not getting the response that you want, and
Right.
it being shameful or guilt trippy or judgmental or critical. And you're just kind of shocked because you're expecting something different. And it's the disappointment of not getting the love that you want
Yeah.
through that person.
Right.
And the hope that you hang on to, the hope that it's there, the hope that it'll change,
Oh.
the hope that,
Mm.
it's just they're having a bad day. It's not that they don't love me.
Right.
That kind of stuff. I think it's hanging on to the hope when you need to look at reality and just accept people for where they're at, and
Sure.
your that something in yourself. You just need to get detached from your being okay, being hinged on somebody else and how they react to you or how they
Right.
love you.
Right.
So
Something important you just said is about hope, and I just want to make this point. You can hope that a person will change
yeah,
from a distance. We don't have to have hope in the abusive relationship. We can walk away from it, and we can still
yeah,
pray for them. We can still hope for them. We can still even
yeah.
love them.
But it
It
shouldn't be a
just
desperate hope. Like I'm
right.
gonna die if I don't get this kind of hope.
Right. Thank you, Jen. That was wonderful. Thank you. Marisa, what about you? Why do you think most people find it difficult to not find themselves on an emotional roller coaster every time they're reminded of past situations?
I think it's because we remember, and our memories can go back a long time, and there are many things that can trigger our memory.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm not saying that the object is to purge yourself of these memories, but rather when you remember them,
Yeah.
remember how you used to respond and what the healthier for you response
Yep.
actually is.
Yeah.
I can't say that, I've never felt re-triggered by a similar feeling that reminded me of abuses from the past. I think
Sure.
that's just part of life. We're going to run into people and situations that have that power to trigger our memory and take us back to that place of shame or that
Yeah.
place of condemnation or
Yeah.
guilt or what have you, whether it's merited or not.
Right.
And even if it's something that you're struggling with and you feel shame over something, especially if you were shamed about it or, for it in your childhood,
Yeah.
you don't have to own that shame. It's starting to be thrust upon you, but you don't have to own that. What you
Yeah.
do need to own is the right to live free of that and to move forward from it. And
Right.
I think we can sit here and talk about it, but living it is another thing.
Sure.
I think, it's just hard sometimes to, somebody's words or actions can take us back just
Yeah.
like that. But we need
Yeah.
to be able to take ourselves out of that just as quickly or get caught in the trap again.
Right. Right. Thank you, Marisa. And coincidentally, do you like roller coasters?
I do. I really do, even though how dangerous they can be.
Yeah.
But I was just going to make a comment to Glenn, but I'll just say it. Um, you can get what Glenn said. Jen, do you believe some people are invested in the roller coaster? They have some attachment to it because that's what they know. All I wanted to say is you can get used to crap. You
Yeah.
can. You can get used to a danger. You can get used to abuse. You can get used to a lot of things that are not good for you, but that's
Yeah.
what you know. So I've been there too. Yeah,
Yeah.
you can
and that's
build that
survival.
familiarity and find your identity in playing your part in that.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, yeah,
Thank you.
for
I want
sure.
I want you to answer that, Jen. I just want to say hello to Annette real quick, who just popped in. Go ahead, Jen. Glenn asked that question. I think it's a good one.
Oh, wait, ask one more time. I'm so sorry.
No, that's fine. Do you believe some people are invested in the roller coaster? In other words, there's something they get out of that up and down of the stuff that they go through. They have some attachment to it because that is what they know. So familiarity.
Yeah. Gosh, familiarity for sure. And even though I was being just erased and judged and criticized and all of these horrible things every day, it was very strange because at the same time I was being told I was loved, although I was never touched.
Yeah.
I was being told on one hand I never do anything, and my ex does all the work alone, but then he wouldn't let me get another job because he said he needed me to help with our
Right.
business. So I was always getting these mixed signals. But
Yeah.
I think there was a part of me that was invested in the roller coaster because I just was so I did want purpose for my life, and I felt like someone needing me was my purpose.
Yeah. Wow.
Um, and I was so invested in wanting to save him with my love. I thought if he sees how much I love him, he'll change. For not, and it wasn't just for me. I wanted it for him.
Sure.
I wanted it for his good.
Sure.
I could see that he was suffering,
Yeah.
despite being so abusive. And I forgot the other thing I was going to say, but that's just pretty much the gist of it. I just found my identity in helping him, which I wasn't.
Right.
It seemed
Right.
like it. I wasn't. I was enabling. But just him needing me. And it was weird because he would get so angry and be this like manly man, but at the
Yeah.
same time he'd have these moments of vulnerability and like he was just gonna fall apart or was falling apart. I saw some vulnerability in him, and there was a part of me that wanted to protect him too, which was really odd because he didn't give a flying F about me. And he was
Right.
not protective of me, but I felt so protective of him. It was almost, it's going to sound weird, but it was almost like a mother-son relationship. It was very
That's
strange.
that's not so weird given what you've told me about his mother.
Yeah.
But he hated her, so
Yeah. And he hated
I'm
me.
yeah. Yeah. Thank you, Jen. I
Yeah.
appreciate that. This art of detachment relates to what we tend to not do rather than what we do. Are you still invested in past relationship, feeling the need to continually bring it up in conversation? What about you, Marisa? Are you still invested in a past relationship, feeling the need to continually bring it up in conversation?
Certainly not. And I didn't get there overnight.
Right.
I'm thinking of certain specific past encounters with abusive relationship, and it was traumatizing. And when you go through a trauma, even when you come out of it, you want to talk about it. You want to
Yeah.
try to explain to people what you went through, and and uh, thankfully, I've found ways to do that and not necessarily attack all of my, friends and everything with it. But there are many places online, especially on YouTube, like Dr. Les Carter, Dr.
Yeah.
Romney,
Yeah.
places like that, where there are other survivors of abusive relationships there.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
that's I really found a lot of help and therapeutic value in sharing my experiences with other survivors.
Sure. Sure.
Yes.
Yeah. There's a wealth of healing and information available out there somewhere. And if anyone listening to this has any interest in, Marisa already mentioned some, but there's a lot of them, a lot of these broadcasts, at least if you're into watching YouTube, which in this case, I hope you are, that have helped Jen heal. I've learned a lot. And there's also different universes of people that help. There's a guy that Jen and I listen to, and he's very direct and very matter of fact and very angry as well, in my opinion. But he helps people. They send him letters, and he tells them what an idiot they are, and they need to go. They need to go no contact. And but there are people that need that. There are people that need to have someone say, "You're an idiot. Get out of there. Come on. What are you doing?" And there are other people that need more hand holding, and that's okay. We all react in different ways. So the point is, though, that there are resources out there. So if you need those resources, any one of us will be happy to share those with you. Okay.
Yeah, I just wanted to throw out there, Narc Survivor is a good channel for that. Lots of good survivors there to talk to.
Yes.
Dr. Les Carter has two channels, Dr. Les Carter and Surviving Narcissism. Two different channels, but the same doctor. Team Healthy.
Yep.
And Dr. Romney.
Yeah.
Those are wonderful places to go to talk to other people who, you're not alone.
Yep. Thank you. What about you, Jen? Are you still invested in past relationship, feeling the need to continually bring it up in conversation?
Yeah,
You said
I talk to people in Walmart when I go grocery shopping, and I just bring it up. I find, I drop a fork. Oh my gosh, you knew he was the son of a fork. My ex.
That's what you told me, Jen. You told me you did that. Oh, you're not a liar.
No, I completely agree with Marisa. I don't bring it up. I mean, sometimes it just comes up, and then of course our conversations on the show we tend
Yeah.
to lean there.
Yeah, we do.
But it's more for a want to help people, because it's such, from having been through it, I'm sure Maurice can attest to this. There's a part of you that just really is thirsty to help other people, because you think about it and you're like, gosh, back when I fell for this person and was stuck in this thing that was just indescribable.
Yeah.
I wish someone would have come along and talked to me. I wish someone would have come along and educated me, or just hinted at some things or something.
Yeah.
And if there's any possible way or chance that you can help someone recognize what they're in, even if it's to plant a seed that gets watered down the line,
Yeah.
to get them out quicker and to get them in a healthier, better place,
Sure.
it's worth it.
Sure.
So, but it's not like a need, like I need to be heard and I need to
Right.
share my story, and it's
Right.
not like that.
Yeah, and I'll go next because it plays off of what you just said. So Jen and I do occasionally talk about past relationships, but it's simply a comparison to gauge how far we've both come in different ways, from allowing that to happen, and for putting the expectations and desires of our heart aside in the past. It's not to continue to revel in this victim place or anything like that. It's simply, well, as Jen said, we talk about this on the show, so it's almost impossible to not talk about some of these, because these are our examples. These are things that we talk out of, to view how we were and where we are now. So for me, it's just it's like talking about a trip that you took once. It's not an emotional investment, where it just puts you on the roller coaster anymore. But it's definitely a word to the wise be sufficient, that it does depend on the reason why you're continuing to talk about that relationship. If you're still invested in it, in my opinion, based on that you're all wrought with all the feelings and years after you've gotten out of that relationship, then obviously that's something to look at.
Yeah.
What do you I know, Glenn, probably what you're going to say, but we have to ask the question anyway. So are you still invested in a past relationship, feeling the need to continually bring it up in conversation?
What am I going to say?
No.
No, please. Please tell me. I'll make a comparison.
No, I'm saying you're going to say no, that you're not invested in a past, no past relationship for you. You're not invested.
That's not true.
Okay.
Was that a setup or not?
No. Not at all.
Are you manipulating the situation?
I got manipulated tonight, Glenn. It's hilarious.
I told Jason I wanted a kiss, and so he came into the room to give me one, and I said, since you're in here, can you get the wall charger?
It was hilarious.
I didn't want to get out of bed. I was freezing. But I told him I was manipulating him. I was upfront and honest. It was not hidden.
Yep. Right. So when she did it, I said, see, if I know that you're doing it, you admit to doing it, it's not manipulation. To me, manipulation is secret. It's hidden. It's, as I said last week, well, I said it probably 5 times. I was really on like a dog with a bone on that point last week.
Yeah.
Anyway, Glenn. So I'm wrong.
So really, you just used what you just said, so you two could get on and talk about yourselves, right? When I was going to answer the question, I have to ponder the dynamics of that one.
Yeah, the narcissistic focus on ourselves.
Okay. As to the yeah, I can see Nez is smiling. So, it's better when you're smiling.
I was going to accuse you of manipulating, but I'm going to be quiet.
Right.
You can do whatever you like. The only time I ever really talk about the negative one with my first wife is on TSL.
Right.
But I will bring up my relationship with your mother because I see that in such positive terms. I think it is inspirational, maybe for someone who might hear it.
Oh, absolutely. That's kind of what Jen was saying.
So it's not. I don't think it's so much an investment, but I think when you have something that is extremely positive, I think there's no need to always focus on negative. Let's hear some good news, and that is a good news story, even though it may not have all been good news. That what I mean. But
I do.
But inspirational to me, and if I can say that openly and honestly from the heart, I think people can feel it when I talk about it. So why shouldn't I? Or why wouldn't I is the other thing. So there you go.
Right.
Same with Sandra. I'm more than ready to talk about that.
Beautiful.
So
thank you.
So I am invested in that sense, really.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. So the real question is this next one. I think this is where the rubber meets the road, in my opinion, because this, the above question is one thing, and Glenn pointed out a positive way in which you can still be invested, and I agree completely with that. If the relationship that we're thinking and talking about sometimes was positive and it can help people grow, by all means, that's a good reason to talk about it. But this is another thing. So are you still holding thoughts of recrimination and/or have a need to be validated that you are a victim of what another person did to you? Okay, so this is a question about, are you in a victim mentality, meaning that you're always the victim, and even of an abusive relationship, are you still in a place where that's the way that you think? And the recrimination part of the question, anyone have a burning desire to answer this doozy of a question rather than me calling someone? Or I'll just go.
You want to go or should I?
Go ahead, Marisa.
I am the champ. I stand in victory. When I think about the last 4, and I'm saying 4, 1, 2, 3, 4 narcissistic relationships that I was a part of, I spent a lot of time being angry, being hurt. And certainly victimhood had its time and place, because when you're a victim, you're a victim. It is what it is. But it's only a stopping point and a stepping stone to move on into healing and victory over those feelings. So I'm no longer boo-hooing and being angry.
Good.
I'm thankful for the good things. It's not like all those people were bad people all the time.
Right.
I can think of many good things that each of those people contributed and brought to the table once upon a time, whether it was part of love bombing or just a moment of clarity, who knows? But I don't wish any of those people anything bad. I still have love in my heart for them, even if they never had love for me. Right. I still was invested, and I still, the love that you have for somebody doesn't just, if it's real love, it's always going to be there.
Right.
And whether that means anything to them or not is inconsequential. It means something to you. And that's a good thing, to have love in your heart rather than negative feelings of hate and thoughts of revenge and things like that. So no, I'm the champ. I'm victorious. No more wallowing in the cesspool of awful victimhood where you feel like you're nothing.
Fantastic.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Thank you, Marisa. How about you, Jen? Are you ready to answer? Are you still holding thoughts of recrimination and or have a need to be validated that you are a victim of what another person did to you?
Maybe a little bit. I feel like it's kind of on its way out the door,
Yeah.
especially with radical acceptance of just the reality of the situation.
Tell
Instead,
everyone what that is real quick.
so so I, from just so many different things with growing up, I had been this person that, my first husband, very similar to Jason, I fell in love with his potential. I fell so quickly in love that I believed the things he told me instead of taking things slow and seeing if
Right.
his words if his actions matched up with his words.
Right.
I was just in a very naive place.
Yeah.
And so right now, in the situation that I'm walking through, I have been hanging on hope, even though there's been consistent actions and words and reactions and treatment that have kind of been the reality, but I was refusing to fully look at it.
Sure.
Always giving excuses or just not even accepting just the facts, just the reality of it, and
Right.
hoping for something different. And so when you're hinged on hope of something that's probably not going to change,
Right.
it makes it hurt more when those things don't come to fruition. It hurts you because then you blame yourself and you're thinking, what am I not doing
Yeah.
to get that thing that I want?
Sure.
And then you keep trying to prove to get that thing. And then it's, we could go into a whole thing about manipulation regarding this, but, so yeah, letting go of that, just radical acceptance and just seeing people for who they are. And it doesn't necessarily, like someone said earlier, it doesn't mean there's a malicious intent there. There could be,
Right.
doesn't mean that there is. It's just, people are the way they are and we need to accept that.
Yeah.
And that's it. It just cuts off that, because you're not looking for them for validation anymore, and then not getting it consistently over and over and over and over and
Right.
over and over again.
Right.
Yeah, much better.
So you're not living you said a little bit, but you're not living in a victim place, in my opinion. What do you say to that?
No, I still am struggling a little bit with, thinking back and feelings regarding how I was brought up and
Yeah.
the kind of dynamics I was brought up in, that I was taught by action and by watching it being modeled for me.
Yeah.
And so I'm still working through that anger. And it seems, it's like, I know my parents didn't really know any better from what
Yeah.
they, brought. So it's in there, my parents, the whole thing is just so difficult to be angry, because in a way it wasn't their fault. But
Yeah.
then where is the line drawn in the sand where an adult should know better and then teach their kids better, But then
Yeah.
this is life. Not things that aren't perfect. People aren't perfect. So
Yeah.
it's like, it's I'm in the process of letting it go.
Yeah. Well, this is still going on too, Jen.
Yeah.
Let's just be
Yeah.
fair.
It's current. It's the
yeah.
current affairs.
It's current affairs.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you for that. I want to say a quick hello to Okie Grower 75. Marisa's waving. I don't know if you can see that or not.
Hi, Okie. Hi, Yo Dino. Yo Dino. Think
Dino.
dinosaurs, Jason.
Dino. Thank you, Dino. We are glad that you're both here. And started out as Marisa's friends, and now you're our friends as well. And that's the way it works. Just like Marisa's our friend. She's our family. We're all family here. Even if Glenn's uncomfortable with that, he's family now. See, I'm manipulating you into an emotional response.
Well, I mean, tears,
Hear
Chris.
that,
I mean,
Grandpa?
tears. I can't hold back. It's just so wonderful.
And you're trying to manipulate me with sarcasm.
No, I'm trying to manipulate Glenn with sarcasm. I love you, Glenn.
Oh my God.
Quick goodbye to Bobby, who has to duck out. Thank you for being here. We'll see you next week, hopefully, or see you Friday or Saturday on Nez's channel. So thank you for coming. The rule here on TSL is you can come in late, you can leave early, whatever you want to do. We're just glad that you're here. So just keep that in mind. Okay, I'm going to answer next, and then we'll ask Glenn. For me, are you still holding thoughts of recrimination and/or have a need to be validated that you are a victim of what another person did to you? I don't think there's any thoughts of recrimination, but here's the truth. Jen kind of touched on this a little bit. With my mother, I knew that she was doing some things that made me a quote unquote victim of certain parts of life, and then in other ways, she's responsible for a healthy marriage for me and for me looking at myself to determine what kind of unhealthy characteristics I was carrying around. Her journey very much was a catalyst for my own journey. And so there's more positive than negative. But with her, because we were in kind of a counseling, each of us counseling the other one in some ways, type of relationship, as I shared on one broadcast, that we went to therapy together just to be more healthy. We weren't in a dangerous situation or anything like that, but we both wanted to be closer to one another. And the therapist said, she got the impression that we talk a lot about deep topics. And I shared on one broadcast that she gave us the what do you call it? You tell someone to do, oh my gosh, I can't think of the word. Project is the only word that comes to mind. And she wanted us to make it a project for us a challenge for us to do something together that's not deep talking about these kinds of stuff that we talk about at TSL. And I shared that we played tennis together. That was always something that we had done, but we hadn't done it in a while. So we started playing tennis together. And we played, we took a trip to Michigan. We played tennis in Michigan, right near the beach. And it was a really nice thing that we've added back into our relationship. It was very helpful. And then, so when we started doing these things, we still would end up talking about something deep. There's long car rides and stuff. And what else are you supposed to do? Just look at the scenery in Ohio as you're passing through on your way to Michigan? No,
Yeah.
you can't do that. But the issue that I saw was that because my mom was working on herself, it was difficult for me to share my anger toward her when I was looking at myself and seeing the parts that I felt I was a victim of her treatment of me. So it wasn't until she died when there was a lot of course, I miss her. I didn't want her to die. I didn't take any glee in her death, of course, but there were things that healed when she died. And I've looked at it and thought about it many times. But what it did is it allowed me to look at some of the bad things, and talking about some of those things on TSL has been very therapeutic for me. And sometimes I think, wow, I'm saying all these negative things about my mom, and people are really going to get the wrong impression. I don't want that to happen, but this is what we're all doing. We're answering questions and we're looking at ourselves. And the goal of that isn't to recriminate anyone or to make someone look bad. That's not at all my intention. It's to heal and grow, and hopefully it helps someone else who has been through some similar situation. So it was hard. The point is, the way I'm answering this, no, there's not any recrimination, and my mom she literally can't validate me. She's not here to validate me, but there is a unseen validation every day that I share what I've learned from her on the show and in my actual relationships, the good things as well. I'm not a victim of anyone anymore. I'm not saying that I never have to deal with things that come up, but when they come up, I deal with them. And that's a point I hope everyone is at. You're not ever going to be perfect. But coming out of these relationships, these abusive relationships, you can get to a point where you're nobody's victim anymore. And that's what I hope for everyone. All right. What about you, Glenn? Are you still holding thoughts of recrimination and/or have a need to be validated that you are a victim of what another person did to you?
Before I answer, I just want to ask a question for after this, please.
Sure.
Does anyone feel that the constant triggering roller coaster is being brought up, or is there any connection to what the trigger is it about still what the other person did to you? Is that part of the trigger? That's the question. Okay. Well,
It's a great question.
okay. In any situation that I've been in, I'm not a victim. I've been a participant. That's how I look at it.
Right.
I'm never the victim. I've just willingly participated in it. So I don't see that it's about what the other person did to me. It's about how we did stuff to each other, if that makes sense.
Well, it makes sense, but let me present a ridiculous situation. So
Sure.
let's say you go to Japan, and I'm sure there's no violence that happens in Japan, but
Well, there is violence, but I don't see it.
okay. So let's say you're in Japan on a trip, and just out of nowhere, someone comes and puts a knife to your throat and tells you, "Give me your wallet," and you give up your wallet, and they hit you, and you fall on the ground. So how are you responsible for that?
I mean, I have to say, I'm making an assumption we're not talking or speaking here about this kind of obvious scenario. I'm just really focused on these one-on-one type relationships, and yeah, and certainly if I need to say that is outside, obviously, surely.
Yeah, you're not talking about the physical.
Right.
No, we're just talking about dynamics of the situation and victimhood.
Right.
You know, that doesn't apply to the person who's going to stick a knife in my guts.
Yeah. Yeah. Of course. What do you think about Glenn's question, Jen?
What was the question again?
You want to ask?
I can ask it again, sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you believe there's any what's a link you might call it to the triggering and getting onto the emotional roller coaster that relates still to what the other person did to you? Is there some link here or not?
You know, I think it's connected to the memories of things that have happened to you in similar situations, but I also think it's linked to the feelings it brings up in you.
Mm-hmm.
Feelings of guilt and shame or rejection and neglect.
Yeah.
And so you're sort of reacting with the memory, but also the feelings attached to it that it kind of manifests, if that makes sense.
So are
Yeah.
you reacting to what they did or what you didn't do? Where does is that
Yeah.
an answerable question?
I think it depends on the situation, because I think there are times where I've in a reactional state, there's disappointment mixed with my own
Yeah.
guilt for not cutting it enough to get the reaction that I'm not getting. And do you see the circle? It's like
Yeah.
so there's some self-blame there. But there's also, yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to add, Jen, to kind of help you off the hook there. To me, it's both. It can be both. It can
Yeah.
be you're upset about you not reacting, or you should have acted. I mean, Jen just went through this. We were talking about an event that happened. I forget whether it was last weekend or the weekend
It was
before. Last weekend, and this is always the case when you're in a confrontation with someone afterwards, and maybe there are people that don't think like this, but I'm like, I should have said this, and you always think of a good ready answer and a good way that you could have reacted. But
Yeah.
in our case, at least for Jen especially, she thought of a positive way, a healthy way that she wished she would have reacted. Now, we can't go back in a time machine and do that, but if you're looking at things in that light, it is a good way to know how you want to react the next time, if there is a next time.
Yeah.
But so to answer Glenn's question from my perspective, yes, there are past triggers that come up, but I like what Jen said. It sometimes it's both. You're reacting to what the person did, and you're also reacting to how it made you feel from past situations.
Yeah.
And it mingled in there is both feelings, the anger toward what they did, and also why did I not react in a different way?
Or why didn't I do the thing that they wanted to keep them from treating me this way? Yeah, it's
Exactly.
so convoluted. Maurice, I don't know if you have dealt with this, but something you just said, Jason, made me think about it.
Okay.
I'm probably going to do an art piece on this because I see it so visually in my head. But if you were to picture someone having a confrontation with someone and they were standing along a horizontal line, and behind the person who's, like, say, for example, getting yelled at or criticized, you've got a timeline behind that person on that horizontal line, and you've got these cells or windows, if you will,
Yeah.
of every single memory stacked up behind that person on this long timeline. And it's triggering every single one, consciously and unconscious. And they're all slamming up against you in that moment that someone is triggering you. It's the strangest thing, but that's the best way I can describe it. So I wish, and I'd like to get to the point where it's not that. It's mainly just the thing that's happening in the moment, and it's not all of this long, timeline of all of these different scenarios and happenings that are, slamming up against you in that moment.
Wow, that's good. You should do something with that. That's while you were talking, I could see what I think that you're presenting in my head.
Yeah.
That was good. Anything else about that, Jen?
No, unless Glenn
Okay.
has a follow-up question.
Let's ask Marisa, you didn't answer this yet, Glenn's question, or did you?
I don't think I answered the follow-up question.
Okay. Go ahead if you'd like.
Refresh me, please.
I was about to say something.
He asked, is there a trigger, and is it more you reacting to what they're doing now, or past reactions? And are we mad at ourselves a little bit in that? I mean, I'm using how Jen answered to kind of throw that in there a little bit. But Glenn, correct me if I didn't ask the question.
It's really just asking, do you see a link between the triggering, the emotional roller coaster, with a connection with what someone has done to you? In other words, is what has happened to you, they did to you, is that triggering a lot of this emotional reaction and stuff, or not?
I think that any time that, and I'm just speaking for me,
Of course.
I'm not living in victimhood anymore.
Right.
But thinking back to the times when I still was, at first, especially fresh out of the abusive relationships, my mind was all what they did to me. I didn't even think about regretting what I didn't do until, the shock wore off. And it took a little while.
Sure.
Yeah.
But then it was both for me, not just what I went through, but why in the hell did I do this or put up with that, or why didn't I say this, or how did I, second guessing myself, questioning myself after the fact, which really doesn't do you a whole lot of good.
Right.
The best you can do is move forward and heal.
Sure.
And like I said before, you're still going to get triggered in life. There are going to be people and situations that bring those images, those memories to mind.
Yeah. Absolutely.
But in my healing process, I can at least say that even though those images, those memories can come up, now I can honestly say about each of those people that I was referring to, I try to focus on the good things that were, even if they weren't really good, or, they had ulterior motives or whatever. There were still some happy times, good times, some moments that I felt I was doing something positive or part of something positive. So I just try to remember that.
Yeah.
If you hang on long enough, those ghosts from the past will disappear.
Yep.
They might pop up for a minute. Sometimes apparitions, if anybody's dealing, have ever seen an apparition or whatever, they can appear, but they also fade away.
Right.
And the real good things stay. The things you did out of love, the things, even though you might think it was in vain, no labor of love is ever in vain. I believe that.
Right.
You just got to hang on to those good things.
All right.
So
Thank you.
yeah, I mean, I've been there where I've felt like, I've been bombarded by both. So,
Sure.
but I'm not there anymore.
Awesome. That's awesome. Thank you, Marisa.
Thanks, Marissa.
Two comments to read really quick, and then we'll get to the last two answers, and then we'll finish up with a very poignant thought to prepare us for Jen's write-up next week. Believe says, I get strange split-second flashback moments of childhood experiences that seem to surface when triggered by an emotion relating to that past experience. Sometimes I will linger in it. So thank you for sharing that. I believe we appreciate that. And yeah, we all tend, at least at first, especially, to linger in these places until we get tired of it, in my opinion. And it takes different things for different people to get to that point. But thankfully, there are people that get to the end of it and they're tired of being on this roller coaster that's described, and they don't want it anymore. And when you don't want it anymore, you'll do what you need to do to get out of it, to get out of the car, however you decide to do that. And then freedom can come, in my opinion. And then the other comment is Dino says, we've all been victims of someone, but we truly have to learn to take active steps toward being free. Being free is to be unencumbered, unchained from the past. Wow. Guys, we really have some people in the chat that say some profound things, in my opinion. So
I agree.
thank you, guys. Thank you for your comments. I appreciate that. All right. Next question, because everyone answered that, right? Glenn's follow-up and the other one? Okay, great. Because of past experience, do you feel the need to put it? This is a great question. Do you feel the need to put up boundaries with people in order to be in relationships with them? Do you feel you need to put up boundaries with people in order to be in a relationship? Jen wants to answer. Go ahead, Jen.
When you were reading the read up, when you were reading the write up,
Poorly.
I didn't say it. No, it's
No,
still
I
good,
said
babe.
it.
It's just your tongue was tired.
Yeah.
You went over this question, and the thought dropped in my head: should you be in a relationship with someone that you have to put a boundary up?
Well, yeah, let's talk about that.
That's the question
Yeah.
that comes to my mind.
Yeah.
Because what's the alternative? I guess you could choose to be in a relationship where you just get walked all over, or you could somehow heal to the point, with the radical acceptance, to where you can be around them and they could try to cross your boundaries and you're just become impervious to it.
Right.
Glenn seems to be a walking example of that, but I don't know how he got there, and I don't know if I can get there.
Yeah.
I'd love it, but I don't know. I've never tried.
Right. Right.
So, yeah, that's the question that came to mind. So if you wanted to chat about that.
I actually do, because you and I have talked about this, and I have pointed out that I don't have to set up any boundaries with you.
Nope.
Because it's safe.
Sorry.
What?
I just no. Sorry. I just had a thought about one boundary I have, but that's not appropriate.
Oh, it's okay. Well, don't
bathroom
share.
stuff, not bedroom stuff, guys.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's fine.
So keep going.
That's a hook. That's a hook thing to say. It's a hook.
That's a talk after the broadcast is over, for
That's
sure.
that's the fisherman throwing out the line.
All right, sorry.
Don't pee on the floor. Is that what you're referring to?
No.
Oh,
we'll talk later.
Okay. Don't pee on the floor. That's a rule, Jen. Don't pee on the floor. It shouldn't be a rule. I should be able to anyway. Because of past experience, do you feel the need to put up boundaries with people in order to be in relationships with them? I was saying I don't have to put up with boundaries with Jen because it's safe. I can come to the table with her. I can be transparent and honest and open. I can share my feelings and my emotions. I can share if there's any expectations. I can share those with her, and she has the freedom to say no to my expectations. She's her own person. Yes, we are in a relationship, but I don't have to set up boundaries with her. Now, there are other people that I'm in relationship with that sometimes, occasionally, you have to set up a boundary. Now, I want to be in the same place Jen was saying, where you can still be around, especially family members, if it's family, if you need to, or maybe it's an ex that you were married to and you share kids, so you got to see them, a couple times a month or once a week, whatever your arrangement is. And during that period of time, whatever it is, 15 minutes or 15 hours, you don't want to be triggered all the time. And a lot of times the other person isn't the one changing, you're the one changing. So sometimes there has to be boundaries put up. But the goal is to be at a place where you in relationships where you don't have to have any boundaries, because it's so freeing to not have to do that. It's exhausting to think, okay, this person just did such and such to me. I want to be healthy, but I don't want them to do that to me again. So either I break contact with them completely, and then that takes me out of the situation, or if I'm going to continue to talk to that person, I set up a boundary. But the very question that comes from that is, what if they just don't respect your boundaries at all? I mean, still, you come to the same point anyway. Do I walk away from this person because they don't
Yeah.
seem to respect me?
Listen.
So
Well,
what's the point?
While you were talking, I don't know if this is making the same point you're making, but with, just for example, with you and I, if there's something that you've done that you've never done before, and I'm like, ooh, that's a little irritating or whatever, I can bring it up to you, and you're like, oh, okay, yeah, sure, I get that.
Yeah.
And we move along, and it's adjusted. And I think it's the relationships where you speak up about something, and the person, like, they're not like, oh, okay, I'm sorry. They get irritated that you brought it up, and then they keep doing it, which
Right.
then ushers in the need for a boundary.
Right. That's a perfect example.
So strange.
Good example. Okay, we'll go to Glenn. Did you have anything else, Jen, about that?
Oh, no, that's good.
Okay, Glenn, do you feel the need to put up boundaries with people in order to be in relationships with them because of past experience?
No, not at all.
Right.
Now, you probably expected that one.
Well, I'm afraid to say what I expect now because I was so utterly wrong earlier.
Well, of course you're wrong. You're always wrong. So I just come to expect that. But it's your problem, not mine.
That's right.
Exactly.
That's right.
Okay. I do think that in, like, okay, you've got your in-home, your marital relationships and all that kind of stuff. But let's just take the outside of that situation where you're having a relation, or you're in a contact or communication with someone who hasn't done any ties, so to speak. I think that what happens is, in something constructive, is that there's like a, what would I call it, an unsaid set of boundaries that are there, which are based on mutual respect. I think you don't need to put up boundaries. I think people who are there in a respectful manner know what those things are. This doesn't have to be said. I think it's like if you've got two married people that are speaking with each other, you don't expect that you're going to be blabbing about really intimate personal details of your life and doing stuff like that, because
Right.
It's a respectful boundary, isn't it? That's how I'm seeing it.
Yeah.
You just don't go there, but
Right.
you don't have to set it. If you have to set it, the real question is, well, why are you there?
Yeah. That
Yeah.
is a good question. Why are you there? So Glenn's saying, and correct me if I'm wrong, you're saying you shouldn't have to put up boundaries, and if you have to, then the question is, why are you even there in the first place?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, as you said, the energy required to maintain boundaries is like maintaining a 1,000-mile long fence.
Yeah.
You have to go along it every day and check that the wire hasn't come down. Mate,
Yes.
this is just insane.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's food for thought for someone, at least. It certainly is for me. Okay. Marisa, did I ask you? Oh yeah, I
No,
didn't.
go ahead.
Do you feel the need to put up boundaries with people in order to be in relationships with them because of
Um,
past experience?
I would say it's a yes, simply because there's many kind of relationships out there, and not all of them are going to be a committed monogamous relationship or a healthy marriage. I think boundaries are healthy, and I think it's good to always have, if you want to call them boundaries, or if you just want to call them whatever you want to call them,
Understanding.
but certain things that you expect across the board from everybody. And like Glenn said, that's respect.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to have the right to, or the license to kill,
Right.
to hurt me in a physical way or in an emotional way or whatever, over and over and over. The
Yeah.
boundary stays up against abuse
Right.
all my life.
Right.
From the point I recovered to the day I die,
Yeah.
that boundary will always stay up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's a boundary that's going to hinder a normal, healthy relationship. I think that's just a good way to be. It's like having your armor on.
Yeah.
Scripture tells us to keep on the full armor. That's a boundary
Yeah.
that the enemy just can't cross.
Yeah.
So I think it's always good to stay armored up and have at least that going for you every single day, to not take that abuse from anybody
Yeah.
for any reason.
It's pretty clear.
So, mhm.
It's pretty clear. Yeah, you're not going to do this to me. You're not going to do this. But the thank you, Marisa. The utopia that we're looking for, or that we're talking about here a little bit, is being in a place where you don't need to do that. I agree. Mostly I agree with what Glenn said. You should be able to not have boundaries. The person should, just from their own common sense, it should be common sense, but unfortunately it doesn't seem to be, that they treat you like an adult and they treat you in a healthy way, and they don't cross certain lines where it bleeds over into abuse. It just shouldn't happen, but it does. Okay, last question. Is not all of this about, I love this question, is this not all about need? If you need something, how can you be free from it? Is this not all about need? What do you think, Jen?
Yeah, I think Glenn hit the nail on the head.
Yeah.
My current predicament has been that I have needed in the past, or convinced myself I needed, the validation of my family, for them to see me and accept me and delight in me and validate me.
Yeah.
And almost like for me to be okay.
Yeah.
Even almost, and this is strange, but it's almost like I've even needed it in order to succeed, in order to reach for the things that I want. It's like I've been holding myself back, waiting for them to say something
Right.
or notice or whatever, in order for me to move forward. And I'm breaking out of that right now.
You
being
are. And let me make this one point. So this is a public proclamation of this point. In the realm, at least, of creativity, as an example, you did this before any of this stuff dusted up.
Yep.
You quit. You realized that you were waiting on them, and even using, as you said on a broadcast, using your anger to propel you forward in your creative endeavors.
Yeah.
And you worked through that, and then this happened.
Yep.
So it wasn't at all a catalyst. What happened recently, it wasn't a catalyst for that. It was a catalyst for other things.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just a beautiful thing. And I'll go next. Is not all this about need? If you still need something, how can you be free from it? Great question, Glenn. And it is the bottom line of all this stuff. What do you need out of staying in a relationship with a person that doesn't respect you, that doesn't encourage you, that doesn't lift you up? There's no positive. I mean, there may be surface positive things. Oh, it's nice to see them, from time to time. Having meals with them, if they don't, steal all the food and leave you with nothing, is a good thing. Doing puzzles and decorating the Christmas tree and all the things that You do. Those are good, fun, nice things. But is the negative worth it? You know, if you're needing something from them, how are you ever going to break free from it? Unless you address the need. And to me, that's the key. If you realize that you need something from someone that's not giving you anything, that's how you can be free of it, by removing the need. Because again, we can't make anyone change. You know, we can talk to her blue in the face, explain to them, I need this and I need that. And they can say, we're not willing to give that. So essentially it becomes your decision anyway. It should be your decision. It's your life. It's how you want to live. So removing the need. And it, you know, as I forget who said it earlier, you know, when we talk about these topics, sometimes it may sound to someone like, oh, we've got it all figured out. No, a lot of what we know, all of us, has been through going through it. You know, again, we didn't wake up one morning and go, oh, I'm totally healthy, I know how to deal with anything that comes my way. No, that's not the case. So we're not in any way, none of us, saying that what your situation is, and we don't know exactly what it is easy, or that any of this is easy. We're just saying that it's essential. It's essential. You want to be free. You want to not be abused. Some of the points that we're making are good points to take on board if that's something you want. So, in summation, on this question for me, it is all about need. We all need something. It's just whether our need is being met, and maybe sometimes you have to meet your own need rather than needing from someone else that's never going to give it to you. The comment I use a lot, and I didn't make it up, but it's continuing to go to a dry well. You're thirsty. You go to a well. There's never water there, and you keep going back, expecting one of these times you're going to look over the lip of the well, and you're going to put the bucket down there. And instead of sand, it brings up, you know, water, clean, clear, beautiful, thirst quenching water, and it's never there. So it's an act of futility to keep going back to some place that you know is a dry well. There's nothing good in there. And I've gone through this myself. It's certainly not preaching to anyone. I've done it. Keep going to the dry well over and over and over again. And finally I came to the point where I realized this is futile. I can't do it anymore. So
It's exhausting.
it is exhausting. Let's see. Glenn, is not all this about need? If you still need something, how can you be free of it?
Yeah, it was a rhetorical question, really. But
Oh, well, it was highlighted. So
oh well, there you go. I'm not perfect. I'll get over it.
you're close. You're close.
I'll get over it. It makes perfectly logical sense to me. If you need it, you can't be free of it.
Yeah.
Drop the need off, and you
So
don't,
good.
and you can fly away.
Yep.
Thanks.
Sure. Marisa.
Yes. I think if you replace the word need, is it about need? Is it no? Because things you need are things that are good for you. Is it about addiction, being addicted, and as well as accustomed, addiction and accustomed? You can get used to abuse. You can even be addicted to it in a way, because if you grew up that way, you're going to think that's what you need.
Yeah.
But I think also you can not only be addicted and accustomed to abusive treatment, but you can also be addicted to validation. And we were all talking about addiction to validation not too long ago.
Yeah.
Right.
But I think if you're on that constant hunt for something, that gold ring you're just never going to get, but
Yeah.
you keep going after it. So you're addicted to the chase, of seeking something that you want so badly.
Yeah.
I think it's more of something you want and you crave than
Mhm.
need. Need implies that it's something that you physically, spiritually, emotionally need. No one needs abuse.
Yeah. Agreed. Thank you.
That's a good point.
Thank you. And also, Jan, I just wanted to make this point because while Marisa was talking, it popped in my head. Ever since we've been together, and I couldn't think, maybe you can think of something, and the only point is to say this, that you have been operating without their encouragement and support this whole time.
Yeah.
So when you're asking the question, do I need this? I mean, you don't apparently. The
I
answer,
don't, because I haven't had it.
right? It hasn't been there anyway.
Yeah.
So it's something that we all, especially with families, in my opinion, we have that desire that's in us from birth. Who doesn't want their parents to love them and encourage them and support them and give them an attaboy, attagirl? I don't know anyone that doesn't want that at all. I mean, maybe there's a person out there that's never wanted that. But speaking for myself, I talk about my dad giving me the blessing, which is basically him saying, I'm proud of what you've done. It may not have been the path that I would have chosen. I wish you were more interested in cars and singing and mechanical things, but I've watched what you've done, and I see that relationships matter to you and that you use your experience to try to help others. And I'm so proud of that. See, I know what it is I want to hear from my father.
Yeah.
I know what it is I would like to hear, and it's never going to happen. And I'm not being negative. I just have come to that conclusion. So I don't need it anymore because of that conclusion that I've come to.
Yeah.
Now, Jen has seen me. We'll be watching a TV show, and the thing that moves me the most about TV is when someone gets the blessing from a parent or from a really, really good friend, and they say, "Attaboy," or "I'm proud of you." It moves me emotionally. I know that that's still in me to want that. And I think if I ever got it, I would just break down crying. I would just lose it. In a positive way. It would be very positive for me if that ever excuse me, if that ever happened. So I think it's a need that people have, but sometimes you have to fill that need yourself. And for me as a believer, God supplies that need for me, and He shows me how to fulfill that on my own. And to me, that's healthy, and that's the way it should be. Did everybody answer this question?
Well, on that last part, I was going to say, because we only have control over what we do,
right?
I think it's good that it's attached to us.
Yeah.
Because when it's attached to other people, we don't have control over other people.
Yeah.
So it makes sense for us to learn how to be proud of ourselves.
Yeah.
And to get those needs, obviously, from a believer with God and within yourself.
Exactly.
And someone who's an unbeliever, within themselves.
Right.
Because then that's the one thing you have control over. And we can, self-talk is such a insidious thing sometimes.
Yeah.
I think I've spent the majority of my life not paying any attention to what I was saying to myself in my head. And it can be very, very destructive. But a few years ago, just learned how to catch those thoughts and speak truth, not lies, so it's part
beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you, Jen. Did everyone answer that? Glenn, did you answer? I'm sorry, I got confused there for a minute. Did you answer this question?
Yeah, I gave a short answer, and I said, yeah.
Okay, yes. Thank you. Okay, so that's all the questions, and I'm going to read these paragraphs here, and like I said, it will prepare us for Jen's write-up, which is definitely anticipated for next week. Glenn says, I suggest that detachment is really an illusion that we use to try to convince ourselves that we have some control over a situation. As I see it, the art of detachment is irrelevant because we don't need to use our energy to detach from anyone or be detached from anyone, I think it was meant to say. The art is really the art of attachment to ourselves. Think of it. Take all the boundaries and walls down, invite the world to throw at you what it will. Is this not freedom? Was William Wallace concerned about what the English were doing? Nope. His focus was on being a brave heart. Sounds simple. I know it's not. Worth a try? Up to you. So next week, Jen is going to continue the theme from her personal perspective. Get working, Jen. There we go. Okay. We have reached the end of the write-up, and what a wonderful write-up it was. Lots of really good questions. We hope that everyone listening has got some value out of what's being discussed tonight. And again, if you enjoy any of the content, we would just ask that you would let other people know about our broadcast. We would greatly appreciate that. And if you haven't already, as always, like, and if you haven't subscribed, please do that as well. I just want to do a quick channel advertisement for those of you that have never visited Nez Lever's channel. Please do so. Jen popped the link in there. I'm sure you have to scroll back up for it, but maybe she would feel up to popping that in there again for us. And also, for those of you that don't know, Jen and I have a new channel that we've started called Dr. Sleep. She has some things on there. She has a wonderful reading voice, in my opinion, and some very calming things that she's reading. And I've got a lot of things on there, and I'm almost up to 20 broadcasts or 20 videos on there, which was my initial goal. And I should reach that hopefully sometime tomorrow. So if you haven't heard that, please go over there and give a listen. Maybe you'll find something that's comforting and calming for you. So Jen did pop Nez Lever's link in there. But thank you for being a part of True Story Live tonight. And thank you, Glenn, for the write-up. And we look forward to what Jen will have to say next week. We'll go to Jen now. Jen, go ahead and say goodbye. And if you have any closing comments, please take a minute to say them.
Woo, this was good. This was really, it was meaty.
Yeah, it was.
Meaty. I didn't mean, I wasn't sure if it came out at like needy.
No.
This is really, really good. And I'm just really grateful for all of you guys for sharing. Jason, you're such a good share and love to talk, which I love. So I know Glenn picks on you. Marisa, getting to hear a little bit more of your story is just so beneficial. And I'm sorry that happened to you, but I just love seeing you flourishing in the place that you're at and even looking at the positives and still loving these people that have hurt you and just being in a healthier place to look at it from that perspective. That's very encouraging.
Yeah.
And Glenn, just sharing a little bit more of your story too. It's a treasure, really.
Yeah.
And I think it's beneficial to each of us here on the panel and the people in the chat too.
Good.
To hear these like vulnerabilities and just people's stories.
Yeah.
What they've been through. So have a good night, guys. Thanks for hanging out with us.
Thank you, Jen. Before I get to Glenn, I didn't say hello to Lisa DeMoss. She's been in the chat for a while, and we're glad that you're here. So I don't like to not say hello to everyone. If we ever to get to, goodness gracious, if we ever had like 200 people in there, I probably couldn't go one by one and say hello to everyone like that. But at the place that we're at now, I certainly try to make sure everyone feels welcome. So thank you, Lisa, for. I know I feel like I've seen you before, but
last week she was in the chat and she was sharing some of the stuff she's going through. And
yes, thank you, Jen. Yes, yeah. I knew I'd seen your name before, and now it just flashed into my head why. So thank you, Lisa. We appreciate you. Okay, let's hear from Glenn. Glenn, say goodnight to everyone. If you have any closing comments, please take a moment to give them to the listeners.
No, I'm just going to keep it short. Say thanks very much for all the input, etc., etc. Stay well, and I think next week's show is going to be well worth a listen. So I look forward to seeing some people here for sure.
Thank you. That's great, Glenn. Thank you.
Thanks.
And Marisa, please close us out. Take a minute if you have any closing comments and end the broadcast for us tonight.
Thank you. Thanks, Glenn, for another wonderful write-up. And thank you, Jason. And thank you, Jen. Another great show, great conversation. And thank you to everybody who came by. And thanks to everybody who watches that replay. Please don't forget to share it out on your social media if you are so inclined. And please check out Dr. Sleep channel. The link is in the chat.
Thank
And if you are interested in seeing Jen have fun with her art with me, you can see her on my channel. Look for the last time we did it was Saturday. It was a 3-way art stream. We had a 3-way art style with me, Jen, and our artist friend Floyd Bingo. And it was a really good time. Please go check us having fun with our art. In closing, I just would like to say that I think we all, getting back to the topic of manipulation, I think we all have the power to get people to do things that we would like them to do. I don't think it's always a bad thing. Last week, I remember I kept harping that, manipulation is kind of has a bad rap. And for the most part, these days particularly, yeah, most of that is not good. But you can get people to do things that are positive with positive intentions
Sure.
too. But in the context of what we're talking about, if you yourself are feeling manipulated in a negative way, or you're catching yourself behaving negatively, manipulating other people for negative reasons, even if you're trying to get them to do something seemingly good, if your intentions aren't so good, then you're guilty. I've been there. I think we've all been there at least once in our life. So that being said, try to stay healthy. Like Dr. Les Carter says, stay on Team Healthy. And remember, there are plenty of places on YouTube you can go and communicate with other survivors of people who've been used and manipulated and abused, particularly from narcissistic abuse. Dr. Les Carter, Dr. Romani, NARC survivor. Thank you so much, and God willing, we'll see you next week here on True Story Live at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And thank you. I look forward to next week's discussion. Good night, everybody.